And welcome back to another recording of the Public Speaking Expert podcast. This is officially the first recording of 2023. Woohoo! It depends when you hear it. So you might hear it later on in 2023. But you know what? As I'm recording this now live, it's the official first recording of 2023. Hello to everyone watching us on LinkedIn. Hello to everyone watching us on YouTube. And hello to everybody that's listening to us. We are coming out of the festive season. Everybody set their intentions, their New Year's resolutions. And I want to know if on your New Year's resolution, you finally wrote down, write a book. Did you write down your New Year's resolution? Is that your intention for 2023? Because if it is, I have the one and only Lucy from Rethink Press. And today we're going to talk about why having a book not only is an asset for influence, because of course season 2 is all about influence, but why of course it lands you speaking opportunities as well. Lucy was one of the judges and the sponsors for the Speaker Awards. I've known Lucy for a few years, and she, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the founders of Rethink Press as well. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. Perfect. So I got that part right. Even though I introduced you on stage only a few weeks ago, it feels like last year, and it was last year, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, have a conversation. So first things first, Lucy, how did you end up doing what you're doing today?
Oh, well, that's a really long story. I'm not sure I can go through the whole of that.
We've
But
got time.
basically,
I've got
about
the
12
afternoon
years
clear.
ago, I had a book published, and it was a company called Bookshaker, of whom the founder was a guy called Joe Gregory. And we realized
Ah,
sort of some way through the process that actually we live quite close to each other. And so as well as publishing my book, we then started working together. And within a few months of that, we founded Rethink Press. And basically, we never looked back. So 11 years on, we are the co-founders of Rethink Press, and that's what we do. We publish business books on the hybrid publishing model, which is different to the traditional model in that the authors pay for the publishing process. So they retain control of all of that. And it's all about Rethink Press is absolutely predicated on the belief that nothing sells you like a book. I mean, of course, speaking accepted, but that
of
the
course.
book is an absolute essential part of building your business. And that's what we work with our authors to achieve. So whereas traditional publishers want to sell books because they won't want to build their own business, we count our success on the success of our authors building their businesses using their book.
Brilliant. And so was it business love at first sight with Joe?
Uh, yeah, you could probably say that. You'd have to ask him as well.
Well, here you are 11 years later, so clearly
Yeah,
there's something, and you've grown massively, didn't you? Because you recently acquired another publishing company,
we
and
have.
you've been
Yeah,
gone from strength to strength, right?
yeah,
And you're involved
yeah.
in the Business Book Awards.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that sort of grew out of Rethink Press as well. So, so yes, I'm technically the founder of the Business Book Awards, and that's all. And that's kind of what's led us together, really, isn't it? In terms
Yeah,
of then getting together on the Speaker Awards. So yeah, it all ties in
it
nicely.
all works together, doesn't it? No, that's fantastic. And now you're going to be involved with the Speaker Awards moving forward, so that's great news for everybody involved to have your wisdom. You certainly guided the process for us last year, so thank you for that. So, as someone of influence, right? Not just a speaker, as someone of influence, um, you know, I've been through this road. I've written 5 books. Well, I've written 6, but 6 we've decided just to keep it an online book now. Why would someone from your expertise, why would someone go through the hard work, which it is? I'd love to say you just sit down there and a few pages.
It is.
It's not, right? Of putting their expertise on the page in this modern day as well. Why would you say that's an imperative part of being an influencer?
Well, I think there are four sort of absolutely certain things that make writing a book a really, really good thing to do. And the first one is just to do with the actual writing of it. So when you get a book written with us, if you go through the coaching process that we offer, we are very, very firm about the importance of planning first. So structuring your book, just like you'd structure a talk, but obviously a book's a bit longer. So it's really, really important to get that structure out of your head and onto a page before you start writing. And what that does for you is it really clarifies what you do in your business, because the book that you need to write in order to build your business has to be about your business and what you do, how you work with your clients. And so getting that structure, creating perhaps a model or a framework, if you haven't already got one in terms of your business, and then setting everything out in the right order. So the planning bit works incredibly well to get that clarity. And then when you write 30 to 40,000 words about what you do, how you do it, case studies with clients, your own story, all those sorts of things, it just, as you write, it kind of goes into the archive in your head, the cloud drive of your head, and it just is there. And it just gives you enormous confidence to have been able to express all this in words. And it, it remains with you. So, anything you've written down, you remember. And so anytime you need to speak, anytime you need to write a talk or a keynote or whatever it is, it's all there. You've done all the work. You just, it's there to repurpose. And so it gives you enormous confidence when you're talking, when you're answering questions, it's all just in place. So that's the first thing, that it really, really makes it worthwhile. And so you pitch better, you speak better, because you've expressed all this, you've put it down in writing, and it's been edited, so it's all perfectly worded. And then the second thing is that there is nothing like a book. I mean, I know there are many platforms, especially for speakers, obviously, where your words go out into the world. But your book is kind of an iconic format. And you said, in this day and age, why a book? Well, it is that kind of iconic archetypal format. And everybody who, picks up a book, looks at a book, searches a book, has that belief that the person who's written the book is an expert. And that's what a book does for you. It says expert in your field. And because you've written all that, that 30 to 40,000 words, but then also a book is distributed in a different way than, say, going out on YouTube, all the speaking platforms. It just goes out in different methods. So it might be in a bookshop, but if you're on Amazon is a fantastic search engine, but only if you've written a book. You're not there otherwise. The media goes looking for their experts on Amazon, because if you've written a book, you're an expert, so let's find our experts and our pundits there. It goes out through all sorts of other, Amazon is not the only distribution method there is, but your book goes out to all sorts of places that you would not otherwise reach. And it does expand your influence. You will find that people you've never come across in different countries, different parts of the world, will come back to you and say, oh, somebody told me about your book, or I found your book, or I saw your book here, or somebody spoke about your book. And it just, really kind of builds that authority and influence that you have. And then the third reason to write your book, and probably the biggest for a lot of people, is it is the most brilliant lead magnet. So although it's fantastic to sell books, and get people to
A
buy
few
your book
pennies.
or download your Kindle or listen to your audiobook, actually the best thing you can do is get your book, probably give it away, get it into the hands of your prospects, of your ideal clients, because it's just a thing of value in itself. It's completely different to a business pitch or a marketing brochure or a business card. Nobody is going to throw away a book. It is a wonderful gift to have. It's valuable. It has a price tag. And when you do that, you're selling to people in a very, very subtle way. But what is in your book is what you do, how you do it, backed up by your case studies. So, your clients are in there sort of speaking for you, not just testimonials, nothing obvious or, kind of hard selling, but it's all just there. And the ideal clients who read your book then buy into what you do and how you do it. And they're the ones who will come back to you and say, yeah, I absolutely get what you're doing. Thank you for telling me how to do it. But what I really need to do now is to come back and work with you for the implementation. And that's how we position and pitch the books that we work with for our authors. And then the fourth thing, of course, is that it's a fantastic way. Your book itself is your entree to speaking platforms. So, you know, if somebody's giving an industry gig, if you want to be on somebody's podcast, what better way to tell them that you're a brilliant speaker that they should have there than to send them a copy of your book? I mean, obviously, if you've written a book, obviously you can speak about it. So, you know, that is a great way to open up your speaking engagements by just having that book to send people to, or to send to them, and just to let them know that, you know, you are absolutely that expert in your field and you will speak with authority because here's your book. And then
Yeah.
there's a final thing that happens when you write your book that I call
Book
book
magic.
magic, which
Yes.
is just the extraordinary and strange things that happen when a book gets into the hands of somebody you really admire, when it gets you a speaking gig you didn't expect, when it just lands you up in places that you had no idea you would ever get to. I'm sure that's happened to you, Elliot. I'm sure you've had book
Only since
magic
you've mentioned book
experience.
magic. Only since I heard you speak about it. It's so weird because it's happened twice now. And it's only since you kind of brought it into my reality. One of them was I was doing a training session around sales conversation and things like that. And the guy just stops in the middle and he just clicked his finger. I just got who you are. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I have your book, How to Stand Out, Speak, and Be More Giraffe. I'm like, oh, were you one of my events? Because I often give them away. He goes, no. Actually, someone told me about it and I bought it. So that's one case of book magic. That was local. This was Exeter. And then I tagged you in a post, didn't I? And then when I went to Ireland to do a talk towards the end of last year, this girl came up to me at the end and she went, can you sign? She just came up with a notepad. She went, can you sign my notepad? And I was like, okay, that's not a normal thing. I'm no rock star or, you know, celebrity that people want my signature. And I went, can I just ask why? And she went, well, my dad has your book, Power to Succeed, which is my third book. And I was like, oh, wow. I mean, did he see me speak again, thinking I gave it away? And she went, no. He's in India. You've never met him, but he came across your book and he keeps telling me to read it. So when he heard that you're speaking at my university, he was so excited and he wants a signature. I was like, oh my gosh. And he keeps telling me to read it. But she goes, first I need to finish Jay Shetty's book and then I'll read you. So I thought, okay, that's a fair kind of
That's
order to do
reasonable.
it in. But yeah, that book magic, you're so right. And I'd never experienced it until you pointed it out. Isn't that strange?
That's such a brilliant story. That just sums up all of it. You know, people you'd never expect to meet in India, of all places, have found your book, have read it, and yeah. And as soon as they realise that you're the author of a book, then you hold a special place um, in their imagination.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. So yeah, no, thanks for pointing the book magic out because I don't, I mean, it might have probably happened anyway, but I never would have thought of it that way. So confidence, the ability to pitch, get you speaking gigs. You talked about iconic, it's expert positioning. What do you feel about, I mean, I give it away, I get it. What do you feel about the phrase that I hear people talk about when they write, but it's another business card? How do you feel about, because a business card takes a lot less time to design
It
than a
does
book
a bit,
takes to
yeah.
write. So how do you feel when people refer to it like that?
Well, I understand that. I mean, I agree with the concept that it's the thing that, gets you into talk, starts a conversation with people. But it is so much, I mean, I think calling it a business card kind of demeans the book, really, because it is so much more than that. And yes, you give a business card away, but a business card doesn't do any more for people than just leave them with your name and contact details. So I just think, I mean, yes, it does that work. It kind of gets you into people, into clients, into prospects, into other businesses. but it's so much more. And our strapline at Rethink Press is nothing sells you like a book, and we call the book your undercover sales agent, because, as I've sort of said, it's not any of those obvious things like a business card or a marketing brochure. It does sell, it's a brilliant sales agent, but it's kind of, under the guise and genuinely of simply giving value. Well, there's only there's only a certain amount of value you can include on an actual business card, however big you make it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've always had a challenge with that statement because I get like you, I get the concept, but especially like I'm dyslexic, so to write a book is for me so like a lot harder in many
Yes.
ways. I don't know if it's hard generally. And so for someone to go, oh, it's just a business card, like, no,
Yeah,
wait a
no,
minute,
no, I think I do find that irritating. I
yeah,
completely
it's be
agree
like,
with
no, how
you.
dare you? Do you know what I went through to do that? Especially when I wrote Speak, Influence, Sell. I mean, originally I wrote it with my business partner at the time, Anik, and then we fell out and had to rewrite it. So much went into it for someone to go, oh, it's just a business card. It's like, no, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you? So yeah, I
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
get it.
no, absolutely. And it also kind of implies that the book is not necessarily very good, that
Right.
you've just put a book out there and it could have any old rubbish in it. And all you're putting it out there for is to sell. And that's not right. If you don't write a good book and a valuable book with, really powerful content, then it's not worth doing. And I don't think, you won't impress your clients or anybody else. You won't appear to be an expert. So it's a lot more than a business card.
Yeah. Which is probably why I don't ever talk about my first book because that is a piece of, I'm not going to say the word, but it's it kind of came across because I said I was going to write it and I wrote it. I had no real anything, it's just not a very good book. Let's just be very honest about it, right? But I did it, and that started me on the journey. And now I've got my idea for my seventh book, and I think after my seventh book, I'm gonna press pause for a while on books. And so, from your experience, what are the biggest obstacles for people when it comes to getting their book out?
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest obstacle is for people who, like you once were, that person who doesn't know how to write a book. And, for that reason, you're the expert in your field, but you're not an expert in writing a book. And for that reason, I think there are, thousands, maybe more books in people's heads that ought to be able to come out, but they just don't know where to start. And that's the first obstacle, and not knowing where to go to get that help. I think another obstacle is what I've kind of alluded to already, which is not planning first. And people, I think we have this idea that writing has to be creative and you have to get in the flow and it will all just come together when you
Go
start
to a
writing.
cabin somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly. And in fact, that is not how it works when you're writing. Well, even a fiction book, but definitely a business book, you have to plan first. And if people don't know how to plan a book and how the structure works, then again, if they just start writing, they'll probably get to chapter 2 or 3 and then go, oh my goodness, well, I don't know what to put next. Where shall I go from here? Have I written the right things? Is it worth doing? Will this capture my audience? And they often give up at that sort of stage. And then yes, the other things are really just not working with experts to help them, which is the way to get a good book out. And yes, it's an investment, but then you want the right return on your investment. So
Yeah.
it's worth doing. If you're going to write a book, it needs to be a good book, and it's worth doing it properly, and then you absolutely will get that return.
And if it's a really good book, you enter the Business Book Awards and you might just win it.
Exactly, and you win an award. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. And do you also, are you from the belief that everybody has a book in them?
No, no, I'm really not.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's refreshing
I
because I
mean,
think
I
most
think
people say everyone
everybody
has a
who
book in them.
has a good and viable business has a good book. It has a book in them. And that's and has the kind of book that will build their business in them. I think if you start writing, if you're a startup and you haven't got the experience, or for instance, the case studies or the expertise to back up what you're saying, then you don't necessarily have you're kind of talking from ideas and theories, or perhaps other people's ideas, and that's not really going to impress anyone. And you may not actually even have enough words to fill a book. I mean, there are some people, having said that, there are some people who write a book first and then build their business on it, and that is a very smart thing to do. But you really have to have very good ideas and know where your business is kind of heading for to make that work. But I think, if you're too early on in the process of your business, then probably it's not, you need to wait a bit to actually to write the book. Perhaps there are some people who really don't, just don't have businesses, or that just don't kind of that. I mean, some people do not need to write a book to build their business. It's a different sort of
Yeah.
business, and they have other ways of doing it. But uh yeah, I think there are there are experienced business owners, successful business people, entrepreneurs, experts, coaches, consultants. They do have what it takes to write a book. And a lot of people also actually say to me, but so and so's already written the great book on that, I can't compete with that, maybe I haven't got anything new to say. How do I come up with a kind of original book? How do I write a bestseller? None of that matters. You need to be incredibly original, as long as the book is about you and your journey and your case studies, because who you are talking to are your prospects and your clients. You don't need to write a bestseller for everyone in the world to buy and say is brilliant. You just need to write a book that speaks to your market. So
Hmm.
your book will always be original, because it's about what you've done, what your experience is. And that's how people, reading your book, learn to know, like, and trust you, and then they want to come back and work with you.
Perfect. By the way, some Tom on LinkedIn said, Thank you for those 5 points. Much appreciated. The confidence and everything, the book magic one. So yeah, awesome. No, I think yeah, it's true, because so many times I hear everybody should write a book, but I think you have to be in the right time of your journey to be able to, because it's got to add value, right? And especially if we're
Yeah.
talking about the space of influence and space for speaking, like my first book, as I say, I very rarely talk about it. I very rarely send it anywhere because it's not a good book, and I think actually it can have the opposite effect, and everybody's like, oh, what is this? There's no way I want to work or book this guy, right? I mean, it was the Coach of the Hat days, and his very first, and it's only the only thing is, the only reason I wrote it is because I said I would, right? No guidance, nothing like that. We've got something else here. I've got a book ready to go. It's written, and people love what I've started online. I'm just stuck at the publishing phase, from Tom. So, Tom,
Aha.
you need to reach out to Lucy. So,
Absolutely. Drop us a line at info@rethinkpress.com, and we'll tell you what we can do to help you.
there you go, Tom. And everybody listening, of course, whenever you're listening to this, feel free to use that email to drop Lucy or the team an email and find out how they can support you in your growth of your book. So, writing a book's one thing, speaking is another, right? They're very different skill sets, but a book certainly opens doors. And from my experience as well, it's a great giveaway, it's a great tool, it's a great extension. And of course, something that we haven't really discussed, it's a great time leverage, because you can't spend that much time with that many people. So having a book allows people to spend time with you, like the person in India, like the guy I was working with, and many other people I don't even know about, that otherwise you wouldn't be able to do. So book actually, I would say, and I know it's controversial because I've had conversations with certain people about this, and some believe and some don't, but I'd say a book right now is an essential part of your marketing toolkit. Would you agree with that, Lucy?
Yes, I would. I mean, I might be perhaps a bit invested in
Biased.
saying that,
Yes,
but
true. As soon as I
but I
asked
really
that, I
do.
was
I
like,
mean, I think a book is genuinely an iconic format. It reaches across time and space, and talks to people. I mean, we read books by people who are long dead and in places all across the world, and it just inspires us, and it gives us incredible sort of insights and inspiration. And that's what your book will do to the right people. It doesn't have to be a massive bestseller to have that kind of effect. And you've already just mentioned two people, Elliot, who read your book and were inspired and impressed by it, and that's almost enough. And that's not that is by no means everybody who's read your book, but it's just it can do such a lot in just promoting your ideas, in giving people value, that I think it's yes. And if you've got that value that you can communicate to people, then there are people who say, oh, I haven't got time to write a book, or it's too difficult, or I don't need to write a book. Actually, in a way, you're being a bit selfish there, not sharing what you have with people who would really, really appreciate it and really benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially I think the space that, we're in, the expert space, right? The influence space. And if you're not sharing that your expertise, you're right, you're being a bit selfish. So stop being selfish. 2023, don't be selfish. Hashtag don't be selfish. Write a
Get it
book,
out
get
there.
on stage, right? Absolutely. So just to start to wrap this up and things like that. So for people wanting to get started, besides contacting you, what kind of 3 tips would you give them just to get going? Like what would you say to anyone watching this
I
or
would
listening to
say
this?
contact us and we'll send you a free copy of mine and Joe's book, which is called Bookbuilder, as you might expect. And that takes you through the whole process of, and then the first step is to position your book to the right audience. And we have a very clear way of doing that, so that your book absolutely will speak to the right people in the right way, and you will get that return on your investment. So position, plan, and then write. And writing is a step-by-step process as well. Again, I think people get overwhelmed by the idea of, I've got to write, I've got to edit, I've got to reread, I've got to research, I've got to do this. And actually, there are distinct stages to it. And if you follow those stages, each one is manageable, and you get through the process, and then it works. So yes, very happy to send you a free copy of our book. And or find an expert to work with, but definitely do not start writing before you've planned, and plan in detail, not just some chapter headings, but everything that's going in each chapter. You do it really, really carefully before you start writing, and that will make it so much easier.
Amazing, amazing. And then you'll get to the stage, which is towards the end, where it's almost always finished, right? And then at some point you need to go, that's it, I'm publishing, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to just let people know how to contact you on social media, the email again, and then we'll just say a massive thank you and let you go on your very
Absolutely.
busy
No,
day.
thank you, Elliot. So drop us an email at info@rethinkpress.com. Our website is obviously rethinkpress.com, and you can also contact us through there. My name is Lucy McCarraher. It looks like McCarraher, and because I have this weird name, for which I blame my husband, there is nobody else online I've ever met with that name. So if you look for me on LinkedIn, or Facebook, or any other social media, you will find me, because I am the only one with that name. so
Brilliant. Well,
so
we'll
do
also add
contact
these.
me any which way on social media.
Fabulous. And we'll also add these to when we publish the podcast of this. We'll also add them to the foot program as well. Lucy, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. If you don't have a book, get a book. If you want more speaking gigs, get a book. If you want to open those bigger stages, those bigger doors, get a book. I am going to say, I know like a close colleague of mine disagrees, but I will say for any speaker, a book is part of your marketing, must be, especially an expert speaker. It's got to be a part of your marketing. Nothing else gives you that extension, that time leverage, but that positioning than a book. 6, even more. But that's another matter. Lucy, thank you so much for being here today. Have a lovely rest of the year, rest of the day, and we will be in touch very soon. Thanks again for giving up your
Thank you
time
for
and
having
sharing your
me.
wisdom. Bye.